Hey guys, welcome to the Truth Convo now, not the Truth Conversation anymore, if you noticed that. We are going into a new era, into a new season, and I'm pretty excited about it. So I want to, I just want to start off with some things that have just been on my heart, been on my mind here lately. Um, you know, Super Bowl just passed. Kendrick Lamar had a halftime show. Taylor Swift got booed. And in the meantime, nearly 5,000 Christians were killed worldwide in 2024. Doesn't get an absolute ounce of news coverage, but that's the world we live in. And this is part of why we're just doing a kind of a revision of what we were doing last year. Not that we were doing anything wrong last year. The emphasis was a lot on Christian apologetics and things like that. We had some cultural issues, but this year we want to really hone in on what the culture is thinking. We've had some massive cultural shifts, a lot of them, in my opinion, pretty positive in the last year. And and I've had colleagues and friends delete me off social media. Oh my gosh, we can't believe things are happening the way they are. The world is sort of waking up to the ridiculousness of all the woke garbage that has been in our culture for years and years and years. And in my experience is, I'm in and out of all these different countries all the time, and a lot of people are rejoicing about this. A lot of these cultural shifts, and we're seeing things happen in places like Romania that was just absolutely unprecedented. um, you know, their president, let's look it up here. Let's see. President of Romania was recently impeached and thrown out because yeah, here we go. I'm going to butcher this name. Klaus Johannes, I believe. He announces his resignation because he was trying to team up with the European Union and bringing in all of this ridiculous leftist garbage into their country, and Romania wanted to be independent. I'm actually taking a team to Romania next week. Um, but it's uh, all kinds of different things going on throughout the world, and we can't be silent about it as Christians. And so, as we look into this cultural emphasis this next season, we're going to talk to African apologists. We're going to talk to thinkers from all over the world, Brazil, Southeast Asia. We're also going to be talking to some of our favorites here in the United States. We're going to take seriously this idea of cultural apologetics and everything that needs to happen to further God's word and to shape our culture and do it in a healthy and sustainable way. So, as some of you probably know, I am a PhD candidate at Biola University in intercultural studies. I have a master's degree in cultural apologetics and a graduate certificate in philosophical apologetics. Um, and I just and a an undergraduate degree in biblical studies and theology. And I just want to put all of those things to work through this channel. You may also notice that I have taken my name off the channel, and we did have this long name, The Truth Conversation with Bill Scott, which was just a mouthful. And I didn't really want this channel to be so much about Bill Scott as I did truth. So, and that said, we may even have some guest hosts and things like that. I've got some brilliant students and colleagues that could just as easily sit behind this camera and do this as well. So we may be featuring some of them in the future as well. So we wanted to make this a more generic, the Truth Convo, which is what we're all about. We want to sit around and talk about the things that matter most. And so when I hear news stories, as I do pretty much on a daily basis from around the world, there are things happening that we don't ever talk about. Like the Democratic Republic of the Congo is going through a major, uh, uh, some major issues right now with rebels killing people and sending people into refugee camps. In Burundi, you have LGBT legislation happening in the Philippines right now that people could lose their rights to raise the children the way they'd like to raise their children. As I mentioned earlier, Romania just impeached their president after he basically threw out the election results last year because Romania wanted to go in a more conservative, sovereign way and start to break away from the European Union. You have the European Union and the United Nations and the American left that is imposing worldview ideologies upon people, such as LGBT and abortion and euthanasia. And countries are sick of that. There's so much going on in this world, but we want to focus all of our attention on Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar at a Super Bowl. Who cares? I don't care. I'm sorry, I don't care. That might not be PC, but I just don't care. And it's like whenever you look at what's going on in the world, it's just there's so many things happening around us, but we're distracted, which is part and parcel to why I wanted to create a social media presence in the first place. Um, it's 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 almost as if I want people, when they see my social media channels, when they give to our ministry, when they are paying attention to what we're saying, I want them to be enlightened to the bigger picture of what's going on in the world. Um, the fact that we could talk about the news could be so heavily focused upon Taylor Swift getting booze at a Super Bowl. And while I've not seen one news report. Have you seen one news report in the last month and a half? This information's been available since the end of the year in 2024, that 4,000, or no, almost 5,000 Christians have been killed. Almost 5,000 last year. 90% of them by Islamic terrorists in northern Nigeria. That's so significant. Churches being burned down, bodies being buried in mass. It's like, that's not news. That's not news to somebody. Give me a break, man. Like, we're such a distracted society that we care more about what two rappers are saying to one another than the thousands of lives being lost just because they're Christian overseas. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of human atrocities that are going on around this world. And so I have the privilege, as being the incoming director of our international department in Ratio Christi, I have the privilege of sitting around and talking to people from uh, all over the world all the time, talking about their specific worldview issues that are happening in their countries. And I think it's time that America pays more attention to some of this stuff. I mean, you have people that are popular political leaders, for instance, in South Africa, that are calling for the killing of white people in South Africa right now. Have you heard of that? Most people haven't even heard of that. In 2023, whenever Jill Biden landed her plane in Kenya, um, Kenya flipped on homosexuality laws that had been on the books for decades upon decades, starting a cultural revolution. Opened up doors for Western NGOs, non-governmental organizations, to show up into that country and try to tell Kenyans how to live. There is so much going on in this world. It baffles me. I mean, I spent a significant amount of my time on Islamic studies and apologetics. And I think that's important. I think it's important that we're able to give an answer to our faith to Muslims and people from other worldviews. But my emphasis was Islam for a long time, until I went on excuse me, until I went on a trip in 2023, which um, totally changed my life in a lot of ways. When I found out that our country, the United States of America, was responsible for bringing a homosexual revolution into that country, that they could trace it back to us, whether we want to admit we had any part in it or not. They could trace it back to us, and that it just, I was shook to the core. And that began a journey of me starting to study a lot of cultural issues like LGBT and progressive Christianity and critical theory, and seeing that these things are being brought into these countries that are developing, these developing nations, and sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, and Europe, through universities with Western trained professors. I'm like, man, this is the time for Ratio Christi to really step up, and we need to have a global conversation about what all's going on, because I have to listen to 5 news sources a day just to keep up with what's going on in the world with some of these, some of these countries that I'm operating in. So I want to bring all of you guys into that. I think it's interesting. I hope you think it's interesting. But I want I want this channel to be something that people can log on to and be a trusted source for information that comes from Christians, not necessarily for Christians, but I'm a Christian unashamedly, and I'm not going to try to hide behind that at all, ever. So, um, but I really objectively look around and start saying, like, well, why isn't this included in this conversation? Why are we hiding behind this? Why are we not talking about Kenya passing a law last month saying that they were disconnecting, or not passing a law, but passing legislation saying they wanted to break away from the World Health Organization because they had sent vaccines over there that limited the ability of women getting pregnant. Like, that happened. That also happened in another European country. I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head, but um, it you know said their laboratory, once they tested it, it included part of a drug that kept women from getting pregnant, and that's never brought up. These things are never talked about. So it really just baffles me, that we could you know that we could go this far, go this long, and just not even think about what's going on in the world. So as I'm just sitting here, this is totally impromptu, by the way. As I'm just sitting here, there are other things thinking, like my buddy James from Rwanda just commented, "Hey James, how you doing?" Just last year, he sends me a prayer request that said the federal government in Rwanda shut down 9,000 churches in Rwanda. And here we are thinking real hard about somebody booing Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar. You know, these are the things that just aggravate me. I'm sorry. Does anybody else get aggravated? Like, put it in the comments. Like, I'm aggravated. Like, I'm sure I'm not alone about this. Like, when you look around, there are just so many crazy things going on in the world, and you're like, wow, this is what we're caught up on right now. This is what we're spending all of our time right now. Man, that's crazy. It's just crazy. So yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm just kind of getting fed up. I'm just kind of getting fed up. Like, I don't have I can't put my faith in the my faith is not in the government. My faith is not in man. My faith is in God. And I think all truth is God's truth, and we just need to point people back to that. And I think that's going to be the answer. So that's what this is about, the Truth Convo, which is short for conversation. Obviously, you know that. But there's a lot of non-English speakers that watch this channel, and that's what we mean by that. The Truth Convo. So it's we live in a cancel culture that's afraid to talk about things. Seems like that's going away. We live in a culture that is just just bent on on just being polarized and not being able to talk about things anymore. And I think it's high time that we do something different. So that's what we're about. So we're going to start this season. I'd like to start it by the end of the week. And so that's what we're planning on doing. We're going to talk about everything that you don't want to talk about at Thanksgiving dinner and more. And and I don't want to be clear, I don't want to be incendiary, and I don't want to come across as a provocateur or anything like that, but we're going to talk about some pretty provocative topics from people that have perspective on things that, I have friends that have worked in on mission for 40 years, reaching out to LGBT communities on 3 different continents, and, who's a repentant homosexual. It's like, we need to hear more from people like that. We need to be talking to people that have come out of things like my buddy Alex, who is, I saw her post a comment earlier, who has come out of critical theory, Black Lives Matter, and all that. And as a young African American lady, found her identity in Christ and has an amazing testimony and things like that. There's just so much out there that we could be focusing on talking about rather than Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar. you know, and I'm not picking on them. It's just one of many examples. I just, we can get so distracted, about things and what's going on in our federal government right now. You have all these people that are being outraged that we're trying to save money and things like that. And it's like we live in, there's a book out there by Ed Stetzer called The Age of Outrage or something like that. Living in the Age of Outrage. It's on my shelf. I need to read it, but that's what it feels like we're living in. But in my PhD studies, we get to study stuff like this, cultural intelligence, improving your your CQ to engage the multicultural world, things like that. Like we need to spend time thinking about what's going on in this world and the ramifications of the future. Refocusing missions, talking about um, talking about what does Christian missions even look like? I mean, it's like, how can we do missions in the information age without apologetics? How can we do missions when you have foreign powers enforcing worldviews upon developing countries, and that's not included in what you're talking about in your missiology? Like, we have to really carefully think about these things. And I'm on that journey, and I'm going to take you guys along with me. So, as you can see, we do have some improvements behind me here. We have a new YouTube studio. We have a new channel, a new convo, a new, I'm sorry, new design for our logo. And Tyson James and company's done a lot of work behind the scenes. You might have noticed our intro and outro video. Just have a lot of new things this season, and we're looking forward to continue to roll them out. So that said, the opportunity's still there. You're still able to call into this show. You're still able to comment if you have any questions, comments, reactions, um, any hate that you want to spew out. I may or may not respond to that, but sometimes I like responding to the hate because it shows me very clearly that we're probably on the right track sometimes. so, but, um, so I'm going to look through my comments here. I've got about 12 on the live, so I'm going to look around here, see if there's any questions. No questions. All right. So if anybody has any questions or comments, you can go ahead and put them in there. I'll answer them before we close up the live. But some of the things that I'm looking forward to this semester is semester. Obviously, tell them I'm in the college world. This season, we'll be discussing things like Doug Grotas's book "Fire in the Streets," which critiqued the critical theory movements of the late 2010s and things. Is really insightful book. We've got Lou Marcos lined up to talk about the importance of movies in our culture. So you can see there's pretty broad stuff here, all the way to a Nigerian friend that's going to hop on and talk about African apologetics. Got a Brazilian friend wants to talk about some of the political movements in Brazil and how America feeds that and how it feeds us. And many, many more ideas and things. We're in a battle right now. We really are, and I'm really starting to see that. And the only ones that say that we aren't are the ones that are fighting against truth. The ones that are saying lay down your arms are usually the ones that are the ones that are out there taking them up against God's truth and against who we are. So yeah. And one of our, like Alex just brought up here, you can, check out, hey Alex, drop in your comments your Facebook page. I love her shorts and reels that she puts up on YouTube. Just a lot of truth pouring out there. But she's, here's Gen Z right here. Here's a Gen Z saying, I'm grateful about the executive order Trump passed regarding women's sports. I used to practice martial arts. I can't imagine having to compete against a man in sparring during that time. In fact, I can bring this onto the podcast. Yeah. And, and it's just things like this that, I mean, as Christians, we ought to be somewhat enraged. If you're not righteously angry about this, like, why, how could you not, I love what was her name, Hermaine Khalif or whatever. It's like, oh, I caught all kinds of flack on social media when I posted about that last summer, and then it came out, French media source. There was a leak from the hospital where Miss Khalif actually did her physical for the Olympics, and come to find out that Khalif actually had testicles, was a man, had a testosterone level that was literally 10 points above that of women, all kinds of other things, but yet it was covered up by the Olympic Committee. And a friend of mine actually told me not too long ago that it's really has a lot to do with boxing committees sparring with Olympic committees on policy and all this other crazy stuff. And it's like, this is the world we live in. Why are we not talking about this in a more exacting way? My buddy, former uh, bandmate Johnny B, we played in a few bands together. He said, would you agree that one of the biggest issues facing the world in the church today is idolatry? I don't know. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that are facing the world in the church today. Um, would I say, well, you said one of the biggest things. I mean, yeah, in some ways. I just finished last weekend giving a talk on progressive Christianity and the Trinity, which was really interesting. Okay. Um, it was really interesting thing to study, right? Because when you're studying progressive Christianity, it's like the goalpost gets moved almost constantly. Just this microphone a little bit. Let's get comfortable here. Let's talk about this a minute, Johnny B. When you start talking about progressive Christianity, okay, this is my getting frustrated face, by the way. First of all, that is such a frustrating thing to study because the goalpost gets moved so much. And what I mean by that is that when you start studying an exact topic, like progressive Christian views of the Trinity, um, good luck, because every progressive Christian believes something different. See, what I like about studying like Islam, Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, other things that you could loosely consider Christian heresies. The earliest apologists to Islam considered Islam a Christian heresy, by the way. Pretty interesting. Um, because it has Jesus in it. It has Jesus is born of a virgin. There's a lot of the other biblical characters. There's some like ancient uh, Middle Eastern um, Christian cultish influence in it and things like that. And there's definite ties to all of that. Um, and as Alex just said here, like I used to believe in the Trinity as a progressive Christian, and many do. But when you start listening to the theology, um, when you start listening to theology, like the theologians in the progressive Christian movement, like every one of them will say something different. So when you're studying Richard Rohr in his book, The Divine Dance, by the way, he'll say things like, the Trinity, it's really not about the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It's the feminine space between the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That's where all the power is. And by the way, the Holy Spirit is probably a girl. Because it's just like, whoa, hold on a minute. And then some progressive Christians will deny the deity of Christ, and it just there are just all kinds of different views and opinions. But one of the ones that really stuck out to me was how progressive Christians typically had a panentheistic view of God, which meant that God was actually part of creation. Um, and that the universe was part of creation, therefore human beings are part of creation. And if God is part of creation, then human beings are part of God. Ergo, God is okay with homosexuality because some human beings are homosexuals. Like, this is how they come to some of these conclusions. Then you're just sitting there going, what? Like, what in the world did you just say? We really do need to do a podcast over this. Like, we really need to have just like, I don't know if I could do it. I'd probably do it solo or bring in somebody who's a Trinity expert and talk about this question, Johnny, because yeah, what idolatry is worshiping something other than God, right? So if you're worshiping something other than God, you're or i.e., making God in your own image, then you're committing idolatry. The God of most cults and most of these other, and I'm not talking about internally here, like Christian cults. The God of Christian cults, like Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, Seventh day Adventism, progressive Christianity, like all of that, they all have one thing in common. They're in some way redefining God in their own image, either calling Jesus an archangel, or saying Jesus was not God in the flesh, or saying that Jesus is just one of many little gods that in this earth just happens to be Jesus's earth. This is the Mormon theology. And then when you die, you'll become a god too. And then you'll be over your own earth and you'll be like a Jesus to that earth. It's just redefining God in their image. So with progressive Christians, like one of the elements of deconstruction is it's a very postmodern concept that says that these, when you look back at all the 2,000 years of Christian thought, well, let's just throw all that out because, that's old. So who cares? It's probably not true. It doesn't apply today. C.S. Lewis had a wonderful title for this. It was called Chronological Snobbery. Chronological snobbery, looking back saying, we're smarter than all those we're smarter than Augustine and Athanasius and Irenaeus. Well, some of his ideas were, anyway, that's another time, or Justin Martyr or Polycarp or even the apostles. And in some ways, progressive Christians are even like projecting that they're smarter than Jesus, as some of their ideas. So it's like they know better than Jesus Christ. Well, that's interesting. So yeah, is idolatry a problem? Yeah, huge problem. Um, because a lot of people, because we're in such a theologically thin world right now, state in the church, a lot of people have really made God into their own image. If you ask somebody to define the Trinity, I don't know that most Christians in America could do that, let alone across the ocean. That they could say three persons, one essence. I mean, I don't even know if people know what essence would mean when it comes to the Trinity. And then when you have influential and accessible writers like Richard Rohr writing a book like The Divine Dance that says the spaces, the feminine space in between the Godhead is the most powerful aspect of the Trinity and one of the most useful parts. Like, that's not even real Christian theology. That's just something he come up with because he's a Catholic mystic. And then there's of course, progressivechristianity.com had a .org, I think it is. They had a ton of stuff on there that was just like unbelievably heretical when it came to the Trinity. And then, you can't forget the Sparkle Creed, which pretty much queers the Trinity in some ways and queers God. It's insane. It's insane. And by queer, you mean like make like deconstruct Christianity to the point where it's not even just affirming homosexuality, it becomes homosexuality. It's very, very, very cool. Or not cool. Yeah. Not cool. Very not cool. So so that was a great question, Johnny. Anybody else have any questions? This is a good way to start the season off. We'll just start taking some questions and I'll riff over here on it. And like I'm quick to say, like, if I don't know, I'll be like, I will get back to you on that. So looking through these comments, let me see here. See if I can, there we go. Good morning, James from Rwanda. How are we doing? Let's see. Yeah, Wakas, my buddy from Pakistan, he said they have twisted carnal doctrines. I agree. Hey, there's a comment from Twitch on here asking for a friend. Yeah, Melissa Doherty, Doherty is well versed in talking from a Christian perspective. Yeah, do recommend that channel as well. One of the things you could do right now is hop on, if you're not on YouTube, is you can follow us on YouTube, because we're definitely going to be spending a lot of our effort on YouTube. We're going to be putting a lot of things up there. If you're following us on Facebook, that's great. But as this channel progresses, it'll go more and more toward YouTube because we're simply looking for a more global audience rather than just an American audience. And while a lot of the globe is on Facebook, there's a lot of fancy tools on YouTube that allows us to put subtitles in foreign languages, so we can do our videos in Arabic subtitles and Spanish subtitles, various European languages and Romance languages and stuff. So yeah, we want to just be able to reach the world. So part of that's going to be putting more of the emphasis on YouTube so we can have a more global audience. So yeah, does anybody else have any questions they want to drop in the comment section? You can go for it, and we will answer that as they come. So, in the meantime, some of the places we are looking for in the future with Ratio Christi International. So we'll be in Romania. I think I mentioned that next March. This summer, as the Lord wills, we will be in United Kingdom. Maybe a couple of different places there. Maybe we could say Great Britain. But we're looking at a lot of different fronts. The ones we know for sure are going to be Philippines, Nepal, Pakistan, a country we cannot mention, then Malaysia, India, Singapore. So we have a lot of things coming up, and my wife Tab will be traveling with me this summer. That's pretty exciting too. And yeah, we're going to be planting some ministries overseas, and hopefully we can take this to take this to the take this on the road with us, in some ways. Of course, doing things overseas is extremely problematic when it comes to live streaming. So we may have to just record some grainy video using a cell phone and then upload it as we go. But yeah, it's pretty exciting year coming up for sure. And so looking through the comments, see if there's any questions. I do love this application that we use, this software that we use. It takes all of my comments from everything that we stream this on, and we stream it on 4 or 5 different places, a couple of different Facebook pages, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn on our best days. Some LinkedIn's really spotty, but it collects all the comments from all of those and puts them all in one big box in front of me, and it's like, that's really neat, and I can see all that come in. So yeah, well, if we have no further questions, I'm going to get ready for our Ratio Christi meeting tonight. We'll be talking about C.S. Lewis and the Four Loves, which is gonna be great. And my wife is making, I can smell it cooking downstairs, some homemade lo mein noodles for our students. So guys, keep speaking truth into the culture. Let the Lord be Lord, and follow us this season and you'll start seeing in the next. We should have a one show by the end of the week. Then after that, you should be able to start seeing like the whole season start, week to week, putting a new video up. So keep up with us. And if you're in the Houston area, if you'd like to hear me and others speak on subjects like this, I'll be talking about, I'll be speaking at a couple of days worth of conferences in the Houston area in the middle of March through HCU's Apologetics Day. The emphasis this year is going to be imaginative apologetics, focusing in on the world of J.R.R. Tolkien and Lord of the Rings and all things nerdy and how that intersects with apologetics. So I'll be speaking on, and I may do a live on this too after I'm done with the paper, but the positive and negative cases for healthy feminism and Tolkien's Legendarium. So I'll be talking for all you Tolkien fans out there that know your Lord of the Rings. I'll be juxtaposing Shelob, the evil female spider that ate her own children, lot of cultural reference there, a lot of imagery there. she she fed on her own children versus healthy views of femininity, like feminine hero, heroine, um, Eowyn, and the love of the love story of Beren and Luthien, and might throw Arwen in there too, but I'm sorry, Arwen. Yeah, might throw her in there too. But yeah, we'll we'll see. I think I just said that backwards actually. Um, hold on a minute. Yeah, that's right. The heroine Eowyn, and then like my mind was going. Wait a minute. Hold on just a minute. No, that's right. Okay. So living with attention deficit disorder is a lot of fun. You always question yourself. So, but yeah. So come out and see us. That will be in the middle of March. So I want to say the dates are. Let's see. I can look that up too. Um, let's see. Yeah, here we go. So there's a Tolkien Academic Conference at HCU on March 21st, and the Apologetics Day will be at Christ Community Church on March 22nd. So if you want to nerd out for a couple of days in Houston with us, please come down. Some of you asked if that will be videoed. I don't know. Like, we'll see. Could be. Um, but we'll see. So yeah, come out, hang out. And if any of you guys would like to give to our ministry, get on RossShowChristi.org, look up International Special Projects, and give generously to the work of the Lord overseas. And so I'll actually drop that into the comments because that will put it on everything. So, um, so yeah. Yeah, if I can find it. We're trying to raise, we still need to raise a little over $30,000 for a lot of our big projects overseas for this year. So anybody who would like to give to that would be very, very helpful. So there you go. So it looks like that showed up on Twitch and on YouTube, and I'll get it up on Facebook as soon as I can. So there we go. Thank you guys. Good first start. We'll see. We'll see what the Lord has in store for us. So God bless you. Here's to a new season, new emphasis. Be a lot of fun. So have a good one. We'll see you next time.